We're halfway through this shadow look that you saw yesterday, but now it's time to start complexion. It's definitely an art and not a science. I don't get it right every day, but I do try to like perfect the look of glowy skin that I obviously am wearing makeup, but like it looks as close to skin as possible. I don't like using heavy makeup because my skin just doesn't take to it well. I have dry skin, so the key, as you saw with the eyes too, the key to the whole look and pretty much every look I do is one, blending. You just have to blend everything out. Blend eyeshadow, blend primer, foundation, everything has to be blended really well. And having the right tools and techniques enhances the blending. And then also finding the right products that have the right formula that works for your skin. I think that that's a huge issue, is that I just, when I first got into makeup, just wanted to do what everybody was talking about on YouTube, because that's where I learned about makeup. And yeah, as it turns out, I can't wear the same products someone with oily skin wears. My skin just doesn't look good with those products. So the stuff I'm showing now really works for my skin, and these are products I love. So first thing I'm gonna go in with, especially to achieve this look, is any type of dewy hydrating primer. My skin is clean. I am now going to take a hydrating primer. There's so many you could take from the drugstore or wherever. The one I have here is a mini travel size of the Milk Hydro Grip. I've been loving this, and one day maybe I'll get the full size version. It's expensive, and I got other things to spend my monies on now. This particular primer, I like it because it adds like a gripping effect to the skin. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's definitely makes my skin feel glowy and hydrated, but the products stick. Next will be the base of my complexion. And so I always use a glowy product or a lightweight glowy foundation if I'm even using a foundation. My number one I use all the time, Colourpop Tinted Moisturizer. Love this stuff. Also have been getting into the Wet n Wild Dewy foundation. I was trying to buy the Dewy in a darker shade, but I bought the normal one, so I've been mixing them, and I like the combination. It looks good on my skin. Also love the L'Oreal Pro Glow. It's a good one. And yeah, those are a couple recommendations. I think today I'm going to use the Wet n Wild. Blending is key, but so is the tools and the techniques. I like using brushes or a sponge, but the key to the really good, very well blended, smooth skin is a damp beauty sponge. This is actually a beauty blender. Very fancy. I prefer the Real Techniques sponge, the orange ones. You can get them at Target, CVS, Walgreens, wherever. I prefer those because I like the edge on it. Put this around the edges since it's fuller coverage, and a darker shade will make more sense. Like, I want the outsides to be bronzier and the inside to have a bit more brightness. I'll add a little bit of this to the nose because I have redness in the center of my nose I like to cover. But that's about that. I'm gonna add a little bit more with the light nude ivory shade. It's a bit light for me, but I like this formula. It's definitely thinner. The regular one is a bit creamy, thicker, but they mix obviously well together. I'm sure they designed them that way. It's quite a bit, but it's not, because this is like a thinner formula. Like if you're someone who has oily skin and to get like a glowier finish, you like to mix like the L'Oreal Pro Glow with the matte foundation so that it works for you. Do that, do whatever. This is just what works for me. First, I'll go in with a brush and then I'll finish it all up with a sponge. All right, so the brush I'm gonna use right now is the Alamar bronzer brush, I think is the name of it, but it's great for this first step. So I like to just go ahead in and pat, pat, pat. And I am like just patting, no swiping. I might have swiped initially to spread the product places like this. Like right now I'm kind of doing a pat spread motion. But yeah, don't worry. This will look much better when I blend it out. You'll see, you'll see. As something I love about doing makeup, I mean, in a weird way, it always looks worse before it looks better. Just, you know, like with cleaning or art projects or anything that requires editing, really. It always looks much worse till it gets better. Alrighty, now I'm gonna take the butt of the blender and just start again, very lightly pouncing all over the face. And this is where we'll start the process of really blending it all together and looking like more realistic skin. And like I said, this is a very light touch. And we're just bounce, bounce, bounce. This takes a while, but I really enjoy the process. Personally, I find this very soothing and relaxing, and it's just like everything kind of evens out, and I just like it. It's that nice. All right, we are, oh, forehead, geez. Jeez, don't forget the forehead. Again, I have to remind myself not to be like, just gentle, gentle, Katie, gentle. Next, I'll add a little bit of concealer wherever I want. A little bit more, like my under eyes. I want a little bit of brightness to kind of even out the darkness of the eyes. The purpliness kind of brings out the purple under eye circles, and I just don't love that look. Also, there's a little bit of redness on my nose still that I want to cover with concealer. Pay attention to the formula. Like right now, a concealer I would not want to use is like, personally, Tarte Shape Tape. I would not want to use that. It's like very thick and heavy and creamy, but not in the way I need it to be. I would use the NARS Creamy Radiant Concealer. I would use, I think I'll use Colourpop Pretty Fresh Concealer. But yeah, using these concealers because they're, it looks like a lot, but it's really, I don't have very much of this concealer left, so I'm like spreading it. This is a very thin layer. Do want to add a little bit here because I get this mustache effect. And this darker color, the darker concealer shade, has a peachier undertone, so it'll cancel out that mustache shadow effect. Anyway, I'm gonna let this dry slightly, because if you let the concealer on your face dry slightly, there will be more coverage and it will stick. So I strategically placed this concealer exactly where I want it to stay. So I'll blend it right into these spots and nowhere else. And I'll use the damp sponge. I'm gonna go ahead and start on the chin. And remember, don't move anything. Just tap it right where you placed it. And again, just reiterating, thin layers. If you blend out thin layers and allow them to dry in between, your finish is just gonna look a lot better. But obviously that requires time. So this is not something you would do on an everyday basis. We're playing here with fun, bright, colorful makeup in a very specific look. I can do versions of this on the daily, but not exactly this. Oh, so I like to blend out here with my finger. This has been a great lesson in patience for me, makeup. But it's worth it when the concealer looks good and not like crepey. If I just like caked on makeup and barely blended this out, like it wouldn't look good. I have to be patient and use a sponge and to get it to look a certain way. But again, look how much brighter my under eye is now compared to what it was before with that. Like it just looks better with the concealer. All right, and now to lock it all in, I will strategically place powder. Not all over, because then I would look gross. But first, before the powder, a spray. This is the Pixie, just from Target. Hydrating Milky Mist. You could go a couple of different routes depending on your skin type. We could bake with a very specific powder I like to use, the Coconut Setting Powder Everyday Vacay from Ciate London. It's so finely milled. It's like, it just works well for my skin, but I don't really feel like doing that today. Plus that looks more powdery, and I'm really trying to be like, this is my really nice looking skin routine. So Real Techniques Deluxe Crease Brush. I like to use this NYX Translucent HD Finishing Powder. This stuff is broken. I've bought this so many times. I can't even tell you how many times I've purchased this powder over the last few years, but it's very lightweight. And I'm just going to apply it under here so my concealer doesn't crease. And it will actually set everything in so that it looks better. Like, you'll be amazed. I really like this, and I find that it's an underrated powder. Anyway, I like it. But and again, we're not swiping. The motion with the brush is always a tap. I put things where I want them, and I want them to stay there. Okay, so now I'll take this powder around my nose, or else the product will leave there. We all have those spots. Put the powder where you need to. At the center of my nose, right here around my mouth. Next, if you're satisfied with this setting situation, proceed. But I, on the other hand, like to do a little brightening. So I'm gonna use my Alamar Brighten and Bronze Trio. This is the Fairlight one. I'm gonna use their brightener shade Rise and Grind right here. I actually hit pan on it last week, if you can see. I really like this product, and I just take the brush that's for it and I just tap it right here underneath my eye. And it gives you, like, I swear, a filter effect. It looks real good. But I just find that it helps with those under eye circles. Slightly, not crazy amount. And then I'll take some just on the top of the brush, go down my nose. This powder really has a bit of a sheen to it, so it can give you a nice glow. Also, this powder is not just any powder, so like I said, pick your products with good formulas that work for you, and this works for me because these powders are infused with hyaluronic acid, so they don't make my skin look powdery. You'll see in a second. When it all comes, it'll all come together. Okay, it'll all come together in the end. So I'm going to use the bronzers in these trios now. You could also use another bronzer that is good as the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. That's very like creamy feeling. You could also use Stick Foundation as a bronzer contour situation. This Physicians Formula Sculpting Cream Bronzer is also an option. I'm using powder. Again, this stuff has hyaluronic acid in it, and you can use whatever brush you like. However you want to bronze your face up is good. I'm going to go in with a paler bronzer at first to lay down some initial warmth here. This is a Colourpop fan brush. F13 is the number. And I'm going in with that Alamar shade Pale Wear. And again, it just adds a nice, soft warmth. And I think it looks really good. Now I'm gonna take like a big bronzer brush. This is a Morphe JH02 with this bigger, the deeper shade Cafe Con Leche. You can just use the one bronzer is fine, but I like to really make my skin look glowy. So I'm gonna just take this and deepen. This is going, I'm precisely, like I placed it on the brush like right here, and I'm putting that part of the brush right at the high points of my cheek to look like glowy. And then just very lightly blend in bronze. Same brand and formula blush. I'm going to use the shade Paraíso that I've clearly been loving on for a long time, a year I guess. And I'm just going to use this light, what is this? A buildable cheek brush from Smashbox. Love this style of brush. Just glowing up those cheeks. And again, probably don't need highlighter at this point, but I'll use it. I'm gonna use a liquid highlighter. Now I'm gonna take the shade Scorcher back here. This is a more peachy coral shade. I love it. I want it in the, again, where the sun do shine. Sorry for the way that I am. And now, highlighter, the fun part. The iconic London Illuminator in the original shade. Again, this stuff is intense, but it works so well. At first, I'll go in with my finger, but then I'll blend it in with a little brush and, again, the sponge.
Mambo
liquid highlighter like this is just way more skin-like. You'll see once it's all blended. It looks cool. Very nice in my opinion. I got this in my most recent BoxyCharm and I am loving this product. It's really cool. It's intense. But yeah, that completes the look. See you next time.